Okay, hello and welcome to our webinar on managing change for managers. My name is Diane Pulley-Blank, and I have been managing groups of people since I was about 16 years old. And I have been in the health and wellness business. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology as well as an advanced degree in human resource development. And, I've seen so many changes and been through so many changes that I'm very, very excited to be able to share some of this stuff with you. And hopefully you're going to walk away from here and go, oh, I've got new tools in my toolkit. So here we go. This is the question of the day. This is why we are here, to take a look at and discuss how comfortable we are with organizational change and what we can do to make ourselves more comfortable, and also how we can help those who report to us understand and better cope when things change, right? This is no small task. And when you think about change, do you react with, yay, bring it on? Or are you concerned and just sort of wish things would stay the same for at least a while? Or maybe you're someplace in the middle there. Most of us have strong responses to change, and even when we embrace it, you know what? It's still kind of scary, isn't it? You are in the retail business, and as you well know, retail undergoes changes constantly. So how comfortable are you when that stuff around you is going in circles and changing all the time? I'm going to invite you to put any questions, any comments, and I hope that you'll participate, because it's really great when you do. And I learn a lot when people participate. But put them into the chat room, okay, rather than the Q&A, simply because the chat room displays to me all the time, okay? So change is inevitable in life, right? And it is simply a process of transformation which happens all the time in all areas of our life. Business environments are constantly changing, often in really small ways which don't have a huge impact, but also in really big ways, such as acquisitions, which are scary and are often not embraced. You can't ignore or fight change. You need to manage it. So as a manager, you need to be prepared, right? The choices you make when change comes around will have a huge impact on you, on the business, on the organization, and really, very importantly, on your employees. So try this experiment. Just try it. If you're wearing a watch or a bracelet, take it off and put it on the other wrist and leave it there. Just leave it there. And then just think about how it feels, and just leave it there for the rest of the webinar. And then you can sort of think, this is how uncomfortable change can be sometimes. So these are the objectives. First of all is to help you understand as managers and leaders what to expect during times of organizational change. I expect many of you have been through at least some changes within Plow and Hearth, and some of you probably have been through sort of major organizational changes. So we're going to look not only at your reactions to change, but we're going to give you some ideas on how you can help manage those who you manage with the uncertainty of change. These are the agenda topics. That's what we're going to look at today. My goal and my hope is that you will take away one or two ideas that you can put into practice when you need them, something to sort of keep in your pocket, and you can pull it out when something happens. You can go, oh, yeah, I remember. We talked about that with Diane when we were on our webinar. Okay, I'm sure at least some of you have read Spencer Johnson's wonderful fable about change called Who Moved My Cheese? I'm hoping that you have. If you haven't, it's a it's a fable. It takes less than an hour to even look at. It's something that if you can borrow a copy or if you'd like to buy a copy, it's really a good thing to keep in the back of your mind, okay? And if you've read it before, take it out and read it again, okay? It's going to give you some great ideas about change management. So let's start talking about past experiences. Oh boy, clearly our past experiences dictate how we're going to be able to move forward. For some, this is a major obstacle because they haven't handled previous change very well. We tend to repeat our past performances, and that is not necessarily such a good thing. The best thing we can do for ourselves is actually to look honestly at our behavior and critically analyze what we did right and learn what we need to correct. What needs work? If you think about it, this is truly the first step to moving forward through change, and it allows us to grow and it allows us to prosper. So let's look at the questions on the slide. What changes have you been through before? Actually, making a list can be very beneficial and can help you realize, this is not the first time I've been through this. I've had to deal with this before. And just thinking about what you've done before as far as changing your environment goes. So then, figure out what worked for you in the past. Again, writing it down. Don't just think about it. Write it down. It gives you a great toolkit of techniques and strategies to navigate change either now or in the future. But, as you know, not everything you did worked, right? So figure out what didn't work, or as it suggests on the slide, what backfired and why. You have to get all this clear in your mind. I suggest you keep this list close and refer to it when you're tempted to do the same thing in response to the same situation. In other words, it's so important to learn and not repeat the same actions if they didn't work before. And then role models. Is there someone you admire for the way they handle change? If you can, talk to them and see how they plan for and execute change. If you don't have you don't have to completely copy them, but you can get really good ideas on how you can modify what they do for your own situation. And then think about what motivates you to thrive in times of change. What are your personal go-tos? How do you remain positive and upbeat? Remember, negative self-talk, while all of us do it from time to time, really is destructive. And positive self-talk creates positive action. If you've been negative about change in the past, tell yourself, this time, I'm going to really try to look forward to it, and I'm going to really try to remain positive. I have a great quote from American scholar William Arthur Ward, and he says, and I love this, the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails. Given that change cannot be avoided, be realistic about it and think how you can adjust your sails and just find the positives. So what challenges do we have during organizational change? No one is disputing there are challenges. And I want to stress how important it is to you as managers and leaders that you deal with your own reactions and your own feelings prior to trying to help your staff deal with what's coming down the pipeline. On the slide are a whole bunch of reactions which are common when managers and leaders are faced with organizational change. Do any of these ring a bell? Let's look at them. I hate this. I don't agree with it. I just feel as insecure as everybody else. What's the right situation, the right way to behave in this situation? I don't think there's any need for this. We've tried it before and it just didn't work. It's just too much for me to handle. Think of your reactions. And if you have any others that are not on there, I would love for you to put them in there. And just remember, all these reactions and feelings are really, really understandable, and in many cases, they're kind of justified, right? So validating feelings is the first step towards moving forward. People often say, I don't know why it's affected me so much, or I don't know why I'm reacting this way. And then they criticize themselves for the emotions they're feeling, right? Have you ever felt that way? I know I certainly have. Keep in mind that these reactions are common and normal in the face of change, and some kind of emotional reaction is honestly to be expected. Employees, managers, leaders, families, all of these need to feel comfortable speaking up. And if you want to, vent and let others vent their feelings. However, in the face of organizational change, it is so important to understand that once the venting is done, it's time to move on and deal with it. So, we have an innate drive to understand and try to figure out and try to make sense of what's happening to us, right? Being able to make sense out of a difficult situation, understanding why it's happening and why it's difficult, helps to create the feelings of perceived control. Okay, on the other hand, when we don't understand why something is happening, we feel helpless, and this can cause extreme anxiety. Okay? You probably have felt that. You probably have felt during times of change that you don't have control, right? So it's very common to have these feelings of helplessness during times of change. Our responses to change are related less to the actual implementation of the new procedures or the new management or whatever is happening, and it's more to the way that we perceive and how we experience change. And also, it's as you're getting into the change, it's not knowing what's going on. It's the unknown. Okay. So that said, there are many reactions to just feeling helpless. And to counteract these feelings, some people feel compelled to do something. They feel that they have to do something to exercise some kind of personal power. On the slide are several common reactions to feeling helpless, and you probably have felt at least some of these when you get that feeling of helplessness and you don't feel like you're in control. Or maybe you're aware of other actions that you have. Just keep in mind that your team very well may experience these reactions also. So trying to organize, withdrawing, say, I don't want to talk about it. I'm closing off the discussion. And, you back off and you don't want to cooperate, right? And you're involving others negatively and unproductively because of your attitude. We're going to talk about that. And then others, get totally overwhelmed or unable to take action, cling to the past. It's always worked before. Why do we have to change that? I used to get that an awful lot when I managed 12 managers, and I would get that a lot. It's worked before. Why do we have to change it? Okay? And that is, and trying to explain to people why it needs to be changed. And this, following along with that, fantasizing about the good old days, you can very often just lose focus, or you become withdrawn, or you may have something else. You may have another reaction, okay, to just feeling helpless. So let's talk about what the phases of change are. And very often, our reactions to change are similar to the grief cycle. You may have gone through this if you've done any talking about the grief cycle, because these really are the phases of both. So we're going to go through each one of these phases. And as we do so, I'm going to say this for a lot. Be honest with yourself. Look at yourself. Sometimes it's really hard to be honest with yourself. Look at your own reactions. Look at what you do and just be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anybody else, but be honest with yourself about what your personal reactions are to change. Again, keep in mind that your employees and your staff are going to go through the same thoughts and feelings and through these same phases. Remember, please, the takeaway from this web is not just to survive change, but to learn how to grow and thrive through change and to help those who report to you grow and thrive through change also. The phase cycles are individual and they can go quickly or slowly. Or they can even go somewhere in between. The key is to let go of the past and embrace the excitement of exploring. That's the last one that's on there, of exploring the future. Let's talk about how you can help your team get through these phases. And just one note, often acceptance and commitment come after exploration. So it's not true in every case, but it's something to keep in mind, okay? So what is denial all about? Denial is a defense mechanism which allows you to not face a difficult problem. It's not there. No. It's the head in the sand thing. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to look at it. And therefore you don't have to face it. And it's evident as soon as a change becomes clear that it's going to happen or that it's been implemented. And denial is usually unconscious. And I'm telling you, you as a manager or a leader may not even be aware that you are experiencing it. That's why you have to sometimes take a deep breath and go, why am I having these feelings? And think, maybe I'm in denial. So often we deny that we're in denial too. So some of the characteristics of denial are perceiving the situation as being unfathomable. I can't imagine it. It's unfathomable to me. Or simply not being prepared to let the meaning of what's happening in. Okay? Or a feeling of utter powerlessness. There's lots of emotions and there are lots of feelings at play here. So uncertainty. You're thinking or your employees are thinking, when will the other shoe drop? When's that going to happen? What will these changes mean for me personally here at this particular company? And you know what? It generates a feeling of needing to proceed very, very cautiously. And then there's skepticism. What other options were considered? Did they even think about other things? Are these changes really good for the company? And this often results in a feeling, an expression that, these changes are not going to work. You can think that to yourself, and that is going to actually be evident to those who are around you. And then suspicion. What is not being said? What else are they doing? What else are they thinking? Are there underlying motives? What are the real motives? All these things can go through your head. Is upper management really being truthful with us? Those are the questions that come to your mind, right? And anger. No one asked for my opinion. No one asked for my input. No one wants to know what I feel. They're just messing with me. And after all I've done for this company, too, you can get angry, and that's part of denial. And then, you know what? Being in denial is a very, very comfortable place to be. It allows the person, maybe you, to absolve yourself of any responsibility and understanding and contributing to positive changes. So what can you as a manager do for your team to help them move past denial? One important thing is to keep in mind it's important to be empathetic. Acknowledge their feelings and help them deal with their feelings. And this is instrumental in creating an environment of real trust and cooperation. You know what? Empathy is a very, very powerful tool which helps your employees and sometimes yourself move past their fear and on to the next phase. So guidance and direction on how to move on is essential. Here's a little word of caution. As you are trying to be empathetic with your employees, empathy is the ability to sense other people's emotions, and it's coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling or going through. And exhibiting empathy is not, I'm going to repeat that, is not synonymous with complete agreement. Rather, it is simply the understanding that there are concerns, and you might need to help someone get past these concerns. Okay? And if you have any questions, please put them into the chat room. I would love to answer them. So let's talk about resistance. Ooh, this is a very, very critical stage because this is where productivity and morale and competency of your employees and more likely yourself declines. Okay? This is where you know your employees, again, or maybe yourself, have accepted it, but they're now rejecting it. So they've gone, okay, this is going to happen, or you've gone, okay, this is going to happen, but I'm not going to do anything to help it along the way. People tend to complain and to be critical, and they're hyper aware of when anything is not absolutely perfect. Okay? How can you, as a manager and a leader, help your people move beyond their resistance? The key here is recognizing that your team members are all individuals and carefully thinking through what each individual might need to get them through the process. If you positively respond to their needs and demonstrate that you're concerned for them as individuals, they are most likely going to be able to move ahead. It might not be at the pace you want, but they're going to be able to move ahead. So but keep in mind, it is also, as I said before, important to check yourself for resistance. Okay? Look at yourself. Be honest with yourself. And be aware that you might be sending out vibes that are encouraging resistance. Think about it. Think about it and understand what your reaction is. So some things to consider as you put together a plan of action to get your people and yourself past resistance. First of all, never forget that your team members are individuals. This is really so important. Treat them as such. Just like you, they want information and they want transparency. Why is this happening? Give the facts and explain the reality, and always give the truth as much as you are able to within your capacity as a manager or a leader. There may be some things that you're not going to be able to share, but as much as possible, give them the truth and be transparent about what is going on. And then you need to accept their feelings and their responses. You can say something like, you know what? Your response is perfectly natural and understandable under these circumstances. And it's so important to listen to what the person has to say without judgment. You know, you don't get to judge right now. Without judgment and without trying to talk the person out of their feelings. The feelings are really natural and they need to be accepted and acknowledged. On the other hand, if they result in really negative behavior or if they result in the employee acting out, you know what? That is not acceptable. It must be addressed and nipped in the bud. So the feeling is my job secure? Am I going to have a job within these changes tomorrow? You know what? It's best to be as truthful as possible without violating the confidences you have as a manager or a leader or violating any company policy. And this can be extraordinarily tricky. You can say things like, you know what? Nothing is really certain at this time when you're questioned about whether somebody's job is secure. Or, I wish I could say I knew for sure. Or maybe, I know that not knowing is very hard for everyone, but we need to do the absolute best job that we can in the meantime. And what happens during this transition time is going to be very, very important. And despite what you as a leader and a manager may feel, it is a time that you need to ensure that you are doing your very best. You're putting your best foot forward. You're putting your best work forward. And this is really, really important. So be creative. Be creative, look for and create new opportunities to use all of your skills and all of your talents. And then again, your team needs to be reassured that you support them and you're going to help them get through what is a very stressful time, because it is a very, very stressful time and it's stressful for everybody. So be honest. This helps create an atmosphere of trust and an atmosphere of integrity, and that's what employees want to hear and they want to see. Okay? And finally, let your team share their insecurities. Absolutely. You're going to need to share yours. Don't share it with them, but let them share them with you. Okay? Sometimes venting just helps get things out of your system, and it enables everybody to move forward. Okay? But before we get into the last two phases, let's look at some myths around managing change. These are some myths. It takes a year to go through the stages. You know what? No, not necessarily. All stages are the same. Again, that's not true. And all people deal with each cycle the same, and that, again, is not true at all. Myths are just that. They're widely held, but false beliefs. There is no absolute right or absolute wrong way to deal with the effects of change. And these myths that we have in our head do nothing but hold us back. So it's very, very important to acknowledge, again, I'm going to keep harping on this, everyone is different, and everyone will experience the process differently. Just keep in mind, there is no set time for each stage. Some people are going to go through one stage quickly and then become stalled on another. You may find that with yourself too, right? What's important, what's really important, is to reassure your people and not minimize the impact of the change upon them individually. Okay? Just be sure that they know they need to keep talking. Talking is so important. I'm going to talk about that a bit later. But talking things out is really, really important. They need to talk to friends, family, partners, people at work. Talk to you. People they can comfortably share their feelings with. And also, you need to let them know that if they're really stuck, they have this wonderful, wonderful resource at their disposal called the Anthem EAP, Employee Assistance Program. I'm going to go over how to access that. Everybody has access to it. You have access to it. Every single one of your employees has access to it, and their families also. So it's very, very important. If they're really, really stuck, or if you're really stuck, there are counselors you can talk to. And it's all part of this wonderful, wonderful program that is given to you by your company. You don't pay for it. You don't pay for anything on it unless you need to really get into a lot of heavy counseling. That will be explained to you. But, you know, it's something that is rarely accessed, and it's really important to get into it, okay? So they can speak to, and you can speak to, a counselor at your Anthem EAP. So, attitude phases. The really good news is that, you know what? You get to choose your attitude. Yay! And the way you portray yourself is is likely going to be the single most important factor in successfully navigating the inevitable hurdles ahead. Because there are going to be hurdles. If you're going through a really big change, there are going to be hurdles. And having a positive attitude is what is going to get you through them, and it's going to get your staff and your employees through it too. Okay? Because your attitude lets everyone know what your commitment is to the change, and that the change is inevitably going to take place. And quite likely, the greatest challenge for you and your team during this time, will be to continue to perform at your absolute peak, despite all of the external events and things that are happening and the disruptions. It's really important to be strategic. Your team is looking to you and is going to mimic how you are going to act and how you respond. Okay? And they're going to respond in the same way for the most part. Okay? Because a positive response is contagious. And conversely, a negative response is contagious too. So if you want people to react positively, that is up to you. You are going to be the one who's going to be able to get people through it by your positive responses. Okay? It's a great time to challenge your creativity. There are things you can ask yourself. I know that this is going to take place, and what problems do I anticipate that this is going to cause? Okay, being prepared is really, really of utmost importance. What can I do as the manager, as the leader? What can I do to head off these problems? And how can I be most valuable to both my team and to my company? Okay, those are things to ask yourself. This is where keeping the negativity out and infusing the positivity will be your greatest ally. One of the best ways we can get ourselves and others from denial all the way through those phases to acceptance is to rewire our brains. When you start thinking a different way, your brain actually does rewire itself, and it says, oh, this is the way that this person wants me to think, so that's what I'm going to do. So the more positively you rewire your brain, the more you're going to start thinking positive things, okay? And you need to be very affirming about what is going to happen. We are just often not aware of how negative we are. We put out these negative vibes and we don't even know that we've done it. So often when offering to help, it begins with, well, yes, but, right? I call them the yabbits. Yes, but, ba. Think of how many times you say this. When somebody comes to you and says, oh, I need help, not I need help, but I'm concerned about this, you go, yes, but. All right, try to get that out of your mind. An idea is to try to say yes and instead of yes, but. Okay? Give it a try. Give it a try with people today or people tomorrow, and observe how it changes the tone of the conversation. For example, if one of your team comes up to you and expresses a lot of concern about how, for instance, implementing a whole inventory system is going to be really hard, rather than saying, yes, but we'll get through it, try yes, and we have the opportunity to add so much to our skill set. Okay, taking that positive spin on things just infuses people with positivity and that can-do attitude, okay? Focus on the positive, and it will be beneficial to everyone, yourself included, because the more positive you become, the more you're going to get positive people all around you. So it's really important to remain clear and concise that the change is the way to go. It's how the company is going to keep growing. It's how how your employees and you personally are going to get better and better, and how everybody is going to remain competitive within the market. So let's talk about exploration. This is the fourth phase on the list that I showed you, and I actually think it should probably be the third. Okay. So once both you and your employees realize that, you know what, resistance to the change isn't going to go anywhere. I've tried it. I've tried denying. I've tried resisting, and you know what? It's still happening. Exploration into what it really means and what the future is going to hold becomes very, very important, and it begins. So new thinking sets in, and everyone begins to understand the importance of their role. And that's so important that they know what their role is in this whole change process. And this is the time, you get to shine now. This is your time. It's exciting and engaging, and it's a time where people experiment to find out what's in store for them in the overall process. This is especially true in bigger changes. In smaller changes, it happens too. Like if you're just changing, your cash system. If you're going, let's say that you're going from an all-cash business and you're now going to start accepting more credit cards, or you're going to a business where you are going cashless and you're going to just accept credit cards. That's a smaller change, but if it's a really big organizational change, the exploration phase is really, really important, and it's fun and it's exciting, okay? So your role is to ensure that the exploration phase does not go on and on, because people can get really excited about exploring what's happening, what's going on over here, but they still need to be able to do their jobs, right? So it's your role to say, okay, we're really excited about this. There's an awful lot of exploration that's going on, okay? You might need to intervene. Okay, you might need to make sure that they have the training and the knowledge that's going to make them feel secure and successful in their new roles. And but sometimes you need to pull them back just a little bit, and say, okay, let's just get on with the job. All right, and remember how you handle yourself as a manager or leader. This can be critical to your own personal success and maybe even to your future. So always aim to feel good about yourself. Be positive about changes. Be confident that you are doing things correctly. And as always, you always want to do your best, right? So let's talk a little bit about how acceptance, or if you prefer, commitment to the change is taking place. Here, in this particular phase, and it's a great one, it's really a great one, everyone feels they have more control as they settle into their new work and into their new roles within the organization, yourself included, because you're going to have to settle into your role and figure out exactly what you're doing. So work really starts to return to normal as your team begins to cooperate and to work together again. It's so important for you as their leader to acknowledge a job well done. I'm sure you already know this. When people do a great thing, you need to let them know that it was. You did a great job with that. As a team, as an individual, whatever it is, okay? And you need to reward your team for actively contributing. So being positive and being motivating is going to keep that momentum going, right? So keep that in mind. And please keep, if you don't do anything else, reward your team. Reward your team for the jobs well done. Now, what about you? We've talked a lot about taking care of your team and making sure that their needs are met, But what about you? What about your needs? What about taking care of you? It's really hard to be consistently there for others unless you're taking really, really good care of yourself, right? So, what can you do for yourself? During stressful times, it is so easy to let good nutrition go by the wayside, right? I'm sure you've all experienced this during stress. You want the comfort foods, right? Like burgers and fries and chips and cookies and candies and mac and cheese, all that kind of stuff that deep down inside you probably know are not your best choices, but they make you feel good, right? A little bit is okay, but it's important to understand that you need to eat properly in order to fuel yourself. And then it's also sometimes you're going to be working long hours and probably ordering in meals or going out for meals really quickly, like going to a fast food place to try to get stuff. So especially at this time, it's really important to make sure that you are eating properly and that you're giving your body the nutrition that it needs. As I'm sure you've heard, just as your car needs the right kind of fuel, so do you. So healthy eating, that means lots of vegetables, fruits, good lean proteins, okay? Whole grains, really good whole grains. I know that a bacon and tomato sandwich slathered with lettuce on toasted white bread sounds really, really good, but it's not your best choice all the time, okay? And don't forget, lots of good old-fashioned water. Just water. You need to hydrate yourself. And I don't know if you've heard, there's a lot of discussion about water right now in the popular press. And pretty much what you need is at least half of your body weight. So if you're like 120 pounds, you need at least 60 ounces a day. Preferably, you need your body weight in ounces and water a day. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you probably need close to 120 ounces of water a day. That just keeps your body hydrated, and you know what? It fuels your brain. You need water for your brain. If you're dehydrated, you get that foggy brain thing, right? Okay, so lots and lots of good old-fashioned water. And those things together are going to give you the energy that you need to get through this time. In addition, I'm going to say it again, eating properly fuels your brain. It fuels your brain, and you need your complex carbohydrates because the brain feeds on carbohydrates. Don't know if you knew that, but the brain feeds on complex carbohydrates. So you're going to be able to think more clearly, and you're going to project a wonderful, positive attitude. And then exercise. I can hear you now. Who has time? Especially when work pressures and pressures and stresses are all around me, right? Believe me when I tell you that exercise, especially some kind of cardiovascular exercise, is an incredible stress reliever. And it's going to help you cope with the pressures and the stresses all the time, but especially in times of stress. I remember my husband was a VP at IBM, and he was building the world's largest supercomputer, and the amount of pressure that he was under, the time constraints, because they wanted to get it to be number one before somebody else did, it was incredible, absolutely incredible. Then his team was changing all the time. There was a lot of change going on, and one day he just looked at me and said, "Why aren't you making me exercise?" And I said, well, I've mentioned it to you a few times, but it's up to you to actually get out and do it. And as soon as he started going back to his regular cardiovascular exercise routine, the stresses and the pressures seemed to just minimize. Okay, so don't forget that. Exercise is also very, very good if you're feeling like you're depressed because of the stresses that are all around you. Exercise is what is going to be your very, very, very best friend, okay? Even 20 minutes a day of moderate cardio is going to do you wonders. Taking a brisk walk, for example. And what I suggest to people all the time, people say, well, I just don't have time to exercise. Well, okay, here's something you can do. Get on some comfortable clothes, put on some good walking shoes, open up your front door. That's the first step. Open up your front door. Now, go out and take a brisk walk for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. And then don't call an Uber to get you back to your house. Okay? Turn around and walk back again. Walk briskly again. And you've got 20 minutes of exercise right there. And that is going to clear your brain, especially if you can do it outdoors. It's going to clear your brain, and it's going to give you that blood flow boost that you need, okay? And just put it on your calendar. I'm going to recommend that it be something that you put on your calendar and that you make, if you color code things on your calendar, put it in the color that says, I can't change this one. I have to do it, okay? So just do it. Stealing from Nike on that one. And then laughter. It says laugh, laugh, laugh. Laughter, you may not understand it and you may not realize it now. It is such good medicine. It's very strong. I'm going to give you just a few of the incredible benefits of laughter. You know what it does? It relaxes your whole body. It does. If you have a good hearty laugh, you'll notice all your muscles are in play there, all of them, and it releases physical tension and it releases stress. And there are actually classes on laughter. People give classes on laughter to release stress. It sounds silly, but you need to laugh. You know what? I heard a great stat the other day. It was about kids and laughter, and they said that, children tend to laugh around 200 times a day, And as adults, we laugh 3 to 5 times a day. We've lost that. We've lost our laughter. And kids, so learn from our kids that 200 times a day is great, but just a nice, good, hearty laugh. The other thing it does, it leaves your muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes after you've had a good, hearty laugh. And when you get stressed, your muscles get all tense, right? So this is a fabulous, fabulous muscle relaxer. And then another thing, there's been a lot of studies done on laughter, and it boosts your immune system, and it triggers the release of endorphins. Endorphins are those happy hormones that make you feel really, really good. They're the stress counteracting hormones. So it just releases them. Good, hearty laughing releases those stress hormones. And on top of that, it burns calories. It makes your body work just a little bit harder. Your muscles are all working just a little bit harder, and it burns some calories. And on a social level, don't forget, laughing with others enhances teamwork. It really does. It enhances your teamwork. If you and your team laugh together, or if you laugh with a member of your team, just silly things, silly little jokes even, anything. Maybe you saw something on a YouTube video, or you saw something that was really funny on TV, or whatever it was. Sharing it and laughing with your employees is just fabulous. Okay? It helps diffuse conflict. makes people less prone to want to enter into conflict. And it really does enhance your teamwork, and it promotes group bonding. So think about it. Think about laughing. Laughing is fabulous. And then the next one on here is talk. Talk. You need to talk. Everybody needs to talk. So talk to your friends, talk to your family, your partner, your coworker. You know what? Even talk to your pet. If you have a pet, talk to your pet. If you have a dog, it's great because dogs will look you straight in the eye. They're the only other animal that will do that, look you straight in the eye. And you can talk to your dog or talk to your cat or talk to your goldfish, whatever, your hamster, just talking through things. As good, the good ones as well as the bad ones, okay, or the not so good. It's incredibly therapeutic, just talking. It helps you get a grip on your feelings, even if nobody gives you any feedback. If you're talking to your dog's not going to give you any feedback except maybe a smile every once in a while, right? But it helps you get a grip on your feelings, and it lets you know, if you're talking to others, that you know what, others are feeling the same way too, right? It's imperative to talk. And then whining. You know what? We all do it. We all whine and we vent from time to time, right? But I suggest that you not allow yourself to whine for more, as it says, than 7 minutes. Keep it to 5 if you possibly can. If you've got employees who are going to whine at you, or they're going to, vent at you about something, that's fine. That's fine. Take them into a closed office and say, okay, I'm giving you 5 minutes. Get it all out. Get all your whining, get all your venting out in 5 minutes. And then we're not going to talk about it anymore because you've already got it out. Or, if you're the one who needs to vent, or you need to whine and you don't have anybody to vent or whine to, then put yourself in a closed room. You can do it at home. Put yourself in a closed room. Put the timer on and just get it all out. Let it all out. But give yourself 5, 7 minutes, and then that's it. That's it. Stop, because you're not going to let yourself continue with this. All right? So, what are the next steps? As we've discussed a lot today, and on the slide are some barriers to getting to the acceptance or the commitment phase. Do you experience any of these? And understand that, your employees are going to. You probably are going to get stuck in some of these barriers, okay? Think about what resonated with you in our session today. And I encourage you to plan at least one action step that you can commit to when dealing with changes. Think about these barriers. Think if you have any other barriers that, or they're getting in your way. They're not letting you move forward, okay? Just try to push yourself a little bit beyond these, okay? So a few thoughts. Look at change as an opportunity. It's always an opportunity. Remember, choose your attitude and enjoy the change process. So here are some resources for you. I know that you have access to these, to the PowerPoint slides. These resources are all on here. There's some that you might want to look at, okay? You can also, I'm going to recommend a couple of other ones, and I'll put them into the chat box. One is John Cotter. John Cotter has a business. He is a professor at Harvard right now, and he deals with change. That's what he does. He is fabulous about it, and there's a lot of stuff that he's written. One book that I might recommend that you take a look at. Again, it's another fable. It doesn't take a long time. It's got pictures in it, but it's got a lot of really, really good things for you to think about. It's called Our Iceberg is Melting. And he's got a whole bunch of other publications and videos about change. And another great resource is the fish philosophy. I don't know if you've heard about the fish philosophy. It's a book from the Pike Place Fish Market, and it talks about what they do to keep everybody happy. And it's great. You can absolutely apply this to changing and to change management. So I'm going to put those into the chat box so you can have them, okay? There's a book. It's called Go Fish, and there's all kinds of other resources on there too. They do offer courses and stuff like that. That would be great. They're wonderful, but just reading the book is great. They're fun, and they're very, very easy to read. So this is your Anthem EAP. These are all of the resources that you have there. Take a look at it while I put this stuff into the chat room. John Cotter is first of all what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to put in a fish. And if you just look them up on the web, you can get them. And John Cotter's book that I recommend is Our Iceberg is Melting, and just read the fish philosophy. It's an easy read. It's very, very easy read, and it gives you it's got 4 main points, gives you really, really good ideas, okay? So your EAP, you do have access to face-to-face counseling sessions, and if you're going through major changes, you may want to actually go see them, go take advantage of this. But there's all kinds of other things, and if you haven't looked at this, this is the greatest resource that you could possibly have. And just go on, and it's anthemeap.com, and your login is Plow and Hearth, and take a look and see what's on there for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat room. We're just right at the top of the hour. It's just 1 o'clock now. So if you have any questions, please put them in there. And I'll stay on for a few minutes. I'm going to stop the recording now. Okay.